Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
So, here we are. What are we doing here? We are here to celebrate the truth. That has been our series this month, The Truth That Sets Us Free, and this is the final part, the final piece. And basically what we've been talking about is that we have this inherent belonging if our understanding is there's only one power, one presence. It's impossible to be outside of that oneness. So no matter how we're feeling with other people or even with ourselves, we still belong. We're always part of this oneness. And so last week we were talking about how often, at least I was sharing how I have felt this way, and I know and I'm thinking people feel this more than even I realized because of the feedback I got from that talk. So basically I was highlighting the idea that there's very few people where anyone mirrors everything that we believe. That all of us have unique ways of understanding things, and that we find similarities. So the people we hang out with may have more similarities with our beliefs than other people, but even then they're not going to match it. And so often what people find in spiritual community, in fact, there was an article in either the Washington Post or New York Times this morning about nuns who they don't identify with any one group, but they're looking to they still want community. And so we want community, and we want to feel some vibrational connection with people, but there's this concern, as I was reading the article, there was still this belief that if you belong to a spiritual community, you have to believe, everyone has to believe the same thing, or it's not, or you don't belong there. And this is just to remind us that we all belong and we all have our unique beliefs, and you still belong. So even if you have different beliefs than your neighbor, to your right, to your left, in front of you, behind, some similar beliefs, some different beliefs, you still belong to each other. We still belong to each other. The truth will set us free. The more we start practicing that which we know to be true, the more we start to experience it. Now today I just wanted to, before we launch into this next part, I just want to ask people, who here has felt the impact, and you can raise your hand and online, you're welcome to raise your hand on the Zoom. Who here has felt the impact of prayer at some point in your life? Yes, love it. So for those of you who have, and Kathy, did some people raise their hands?
No one's raised their hand yet.
Come on, online people, let's get with it. We're calling you out today. So if you have felt the power of prayer, and if you haven't felt the power of prayer, just think of maybe thoughts. Have you felt the power of thoughts in your life? Can you just silent to yourself, just think of 3 times that power of prayer it's impacted your life. Just take note of it. 3 times in your life where prayer has actually impacted your life in a way that was noticeable. Or thoughts. We got some? Anyone want to share one? Just if they want to share one time where you've known prayer to impact your life? Okay, come on up. Everyone has to come up because online has to hear through the mic. Otherwise, I just say yell it out, but I guess I could repeat it.
Okay, you're going to hold on to the mic,
I'm
right?
going to hold on to the mic. Me and Oprah.
This was the first one that came to me, and it was when my daughter was 13 years old, and she ran away from home. And I didn't know where she was. Police say, oh, she's run away. She's going to turn up, whatever. So when you have nothing else to do, what do? You pray. You ask God to take care of your child. And at that time, I had a beautiful, it's actually a photograph of the Virgen de Guadalupe from Mexico. And so I was praying to her, and she answered me, and she said that my daughter will return in 5 days. She returned in 5 days.
Beautiful. Barbara Flores, for those of you who don't know, I should have introduced her. Thank you, Barbara, the Virgin de Guadalupe. All prayers work. Anyone else have a prayer you want to share that impacted you? Share.
I have so many, I can't choose, but this one was so spectacular, I'll tell you about it. I was very much in need of an assistant to help me in my work. And I happened to be at church, and two of the minister practitioners were there praying with each other, and they were sitting in this little room, and the door was ajar, and when I walked past, they called me in and said, "Come join our group. What is it that you want prayer for?" And so I told them, and the two of them prayed for me, and literally, when they got to, and so it is, the assistant pastor poked her head into the room and said, "Christina is looking for some part-time administrative work. Anybody know of anything?" She was my assistant for 5 years. She was absolutely fabulous. And she became a practitioner during that 5-year period. And so we would start every work day with prayer for one another. And oh, what a blessing.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Immediate manifestation. Anyone else would like to share a story? Okay, and then Kat, you do, and then because you're here, and then Kathy will come up and share a story.
Oh God, I want to hold this. So, I am praying all the time. So, but I have to tell you, this morning I was so late. And I got in my car and said, "God, you and I know that there is no time, no space in this universe." I wasn't speeding, but I got here in 25 minutes. But that's a little prayer. I have so many. I'm here today, and I was given 5 years to live 33 years ago. So praying all the time.
Love, love, love. Jerry Bowen and Kathy Sharmer, Reverend Kathy.
So I was in my 40s and had never married and starting to wonder what's wrong with me. So I visioned for the right and perfect relationship to come into my life, and I have now been married to John Shermer for 22 years.
Woo! Congratulations. Well, that's great. Power of prayer. Backwards up. All right. So we got some demonstrations there just to remind us the power of prayer. Thank you for those of you who came up and shared. How many of you have felt the power of meditation in your life? Most of you. Online, anyone raising their hand? Are they participating yet?
For the other one, for the prayer, Rashmi reached out to the prayer team this week, and all the prayers she received helped carry her through a difficult week. Profoundly grateful.
Woo! So that was Rashmi saying that she has felt a power of prayer through the prayer team praying for her in a certain situation. Thank you, Rashmi. So meditation. So just take a moment, and I'd like you to think, if you can think of 3 ways, do, but even if one way, where meditation has impacted your life. So just take a moment and think, how has you experienced meditation impacting your life? Okay, and does anyone have an experience that you'd like to share of how meditation has impacted your life? All right, we got 2, Jim and then Mike. I know. This is Jim Coker. I have to do better names.
Okay, I'm going to tell you about a story when I was quite young. I was in the military, and the world was just seeming to be turning upside down, and I couldn't figure out why. And my roommate said, you know, you're the only person I know that takes long walks on short bridges. And so I didn't even know what meditation was at the time, but I was just going into a healing place, and there was a spirit there just waiting for me or whatever that would heal me. And finally, after about, I guess, a couple of weeks or something like that, I finally realized that being in the military was a slow brainwash, and I was just rejecting it. And so therefore, it had a profound effect on my life.
Beautiful. Thank you. You can feel that. Power of meditation. Thank you, Jim. Mike Tipton. I added a vowel to a syllable. Just for those of you who don't know, Mike and Shiloh are getting married in a couple weeks.
Yeah. I suffered for many, many years, decades, of the torment of negative voices in my head, just tearing me down. And what I found in meditation is as I move deeply into a present moment, it stops, and I get to find peace of mind. And it's that same place that I get to find the connectiveness to the collective conscious, where that collectiveness, that one whole is right there when all that stops. And that's what I get out of meditation. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Anyone else? Anyone else like to share? I'm sorry, what?
A chat line who's got some meditation experiences.
Oh, great.
Cindy says meditation is how she met the Divine Mother.
Say it one more time. Meditation what?
Yes, Cindy wrote how the meditation is how she met the Divine Mother.
So Cindy Epstein said that meditation is how she met the Divine Mother.
She also says, love you, Mike and Shala.
She also says, love you, Mike and Shiloh.
And Beth writes, in meditation, I release and recognize the power of the oneness, and everything I need is revealed.
Yeah, so Beth Stiles was saying that in meditation she releases, very similar to Michael and Mike, and releasing everything that she needs is revealed. Thank you, Beth. Love this. Prayer and meditation. As we're looking for the truth that sets us free, what we know is ideas and concepts are limited. That's this idea that that's how we can all have different beliefs or nuances to our beliefs, because in the realm of concept, you can play with everything. Infinite ways. That's the whole idea of infinite possibilities. We have infinite ways to play with ideas. But as we let go of form and start moving into a higher realm, we start to know things at a deeper level that you can't really get in arguments about, because we're now in a different place that transcends words. And just like, I was going to say, just like concepts can't contain this idea of God, neither can images. But there is the story of a teacher who had a little girl in her classroom, and the little girl was in the corner, and she was doing an art project. And so the teacher goes over to the little girl and looks over her shoulder and says, "Oh, what are you working on there?" And the little girl she says, "I'm making a drawing of God." And the teacher said, "Well, nobody knows what God looks like." And she said, "Oh, they will in a minute." So she knows what God looks like, but even then, so we know we have this thing, and this is why this is actually the hardest thing to talk about, because we're moving into a world that is beyond words, that impacts us strongly. And so I think one of the reasons why prayer is something that we are drawn to is because it allows us to use our mind, it allows us to use our concepts to get to this higher place. Now, the reason why I was asking about your connection of the power of prayer and the power of meditation to life is because it is one, and what we want to start really doing is seeing the connection of our spiritual work with what's happening in our world out there. Because I know some people do spiritual work, and they do their spiritual work, but they don't make the connection to what happened that day or to a conversation that day. Like Sherry just made the immediate comment, "Oh, we finished praying, someone came in and offered," it's like, that was so immediate. But sometimes you get the answer 4 days later, and we want to make those connections. So if you're having a hard time making those connections, I just offer you to have a little notebook and just make, I meditated 3 days in a row, and suddenly I noticed work was getting a little bit easier, or things just seemed to work out. And just write it down so you can remember, because we need to that's what's healing our separation. We want to heal the separation from the inner work of what we're doing, the inside, the divine inner cosmos, and the external, our external world. Because as we deepen in what oneness actually looks like, these connections need to be made. And I think prayer is one of the most powerful ways we make that connection, because we are using words. We are often using our mind, and if we really let the prayer go, our heart, into our heart, our mind, and even our body. People pray and go for walks. People pray, and there's when I was at Agape, there was a group called Sweat Your Prayers, and you'd be praying and dancing and praying and just letting the words pour through your whole body. It's like this vibrational frequency that takes us to another place. So we want to make these connections, and prayer can do that. But I also really want to offer one of the thing that excites me personally, and it's about getting to know truth, is that prayer, often when we think about prayer, we think of demonstration in the external world. But it's also really important to recognize prayer as a mode to become enlightened. That we can pray, so just think when you're thinking about prayer, how many times have you prayed for your actual enlightenment? Like, we're reading Autobiography of a Yogi right now, and anyone who's read the book, the guy is like impassioned. He wants to be enlightened. But then I've heard, and I'm not saying that, in fact, nobody in this group has said it at all, but years ago, I remember when I was first reading it, I remember talking to a friend, and she said, well, no, I don't expect to be enlightened at all. And I remember being surprised, like, why not? Right, there you go. I do. So that can become part of our prayer work. It's not just about praying how to manifest things in the physical and emotional and mental world. It's also about praying to become enlightened teachers, using this incredible tool. So what is prayer? For me, prayer is when we recognize that spirit is the source of anything. So however we pray, it can be a devotional prayer, it can be a principle prayer. However that prayer is, it's recognizing that there's something greater than the material world, something greater than the mental world, greater than our mental, emotional, and physical world. So whatever type of prayer you're doing, it's this recognition of something beyond this world of form, the five senses. So it can look any way, but it is a conscious, so if you're thinking always about money, it's not that that's bad, but it's a material idea, what we would call in our teaching the effect. What we want to know is the spiritual truth behind it, because the spiritual truth is a truth beyond concept. And so we want to start connecting. I remember years ago, I wanted to know what extravagant abundance looked like. I just love the word extravagant abundance. And so I was just going on this walk. I was living in West Hollywood at the time, but I just in a single apartment, nothing, not spectacular. But I would just go on these long walks. What is extravagant abundance? Just being in that question, but connecting and always when I'm asking, I'm not asking myself. I'm asking this divine presence. And the next thing I knew, I was taken up. I had no idea where I was. I got totally lost, and I was up on this hill, and there was a house up there, and I was reading the plaque on the house, and it used to own all the property around West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. It had like 30. It was just huge. And I'm like, this is extravagant abundance, right there. It just comes. But that's a material form of something that I was seeking to know spiritually. So it was pointing in the direction. Any answer that we get externally is actually just the finger pointing at the moon, but it's never the moon itself. And prayer can take us to the moon itself. Prayer can take us, when we continue to pray, as we heard with Joel Goldsmith, as you continue to pray, it's going to get us to a place where we get more and more silent, to we're listening as we pray. There's a listening quality that starts to take over, and we get quieter inside, and then something else, not our voice, starts to speak through us. And we know the difference. When you pray a lot, you know when something other than yourself is doing the prayer. And now you shifted states of consciousness. It's interesting because I think most of you know this story, but before we moved here, right before we moved here, I was walking in the neighborhood, and there used to be a labyrinth right by the statue over there of St. Francis. And in my walks, I don't let myself stop, so I have to keep walking. But I wanted to do the labyrinth, and so I remember Jack and Julian call it the guy nod. Hey, so I did the guy nod to St. Francis as I'm on my walk. I'm, hey, what's up? What's up, St. Francis? But I had to keep walking, and so I did the labyrinth, and as I'm walking, I hear St. Francis whisper in my ear, and it said, it's time to start building a foundation. And I asked, a foundation of what? And he said, it's a house of prayer. And soon after I heard that, this space became available, and we moved in. God is on the field. And so it's taken a while, because after that I had an aneurysm, and then we had COVID. But now we have this beautiful prayer team. And I think the people who are praying are getting how awesome it is to be praying for themselves and each other and for this community and for this world on a regular basis, as all of you are. And so this is a layperson prayer team. So for me, to have as many people in this community participating on the prayer team is a fulfillment of that as our foundation, having a community of people who are praying, because it raises the vibration. It raises the vibration. It raises the vibration of all of us, the more people collectively and communally praying. So if you ever are interested, you need to take 2 classes, 2 CSL classes. And once you've taken those classes, then you have an interview, and if everything goes well, if it works out, we have our retreat. Just you can write it down. The first weekend in April, we go to San Damiano Retreat Center, and we have our prayer training. And then you too can be part of our prayer team. But that's something. So in our prayer team, it's just beginning. I mean, right now we're praying. Next month, we're going to start praying for members of our community. But there have been so many, it took a long time just in the visioning of it. There's so many ways that this prayer ministry is going to be of service, not only to this community, but to the Livermore community, praying for things happening in the world. This is an essence of who we are. And by doing all these prayers, see, I was thinking it was interesting to me that the foundation was prayer. And I was thinking about, why was it prayer? Because the more we pray, we feel like we're praying for something out there, but really we're changing this interior world to become more and more like heaven. We're becoming more and more spiritual beings. We are more and more breaking free from the shattering duality into an incredible understanding of what oneness is, that is beyond our mental concept. This is prayer that takes us beyond. The more we pray, the more we move beyond our mental concepts. Now, the reason why I found this beginning of prayer, this foundation of prayer, unexpected, is because of the way I got my call to ministry. And many of you know this as well. So my call to ministry was I was living in Virginia, and I had a vision of Yogananda. I was in Pacific Palisades in Lake Shrine, and Lake Shrine is his organization's, he created it. And so I had seen his picture up, but that's all I knew of him. I didn't know there was a book about him. I didn't know people knew about him. And I was told by the Christ that I could trust him. And then across the little bridge that's at Lake Shrine was Shunryu Suzuki. And Yogananda was looking at me, and he's saying, you need to be a minister. You need to be a minister. You need to be a minister. And all these doubts came in. You need to be a minister. Like, they heard the doubts, and Shunryu Suzuki on the other side of the bridge is shaking his head vigorously. So this put me in a perplexing, okay, but they didn't say a minister of what? I loved Christ, I liked Yogananda, I liked Shunryu. At the time I didn't know Yogananda and Shunryu Suzuki, but I liked world religions. And so CSL was this wonderful way, and I was at Agape at the time. So CSL was a wonderful way to have a principle-based organization that allowed me to learn from other teachers. And I just took that for granted. Reverend Michael, being sort of a mystic, Yogananda, Shunryu Suzuki. But then when I became a minister, I was saying, well, why these teachers? What is it that they have in common? Because I was trying to find an understanding of what ministry was supposed to look like for me. And what they all highlight is direct experience of God. Way more than theology. So Yogananda does teach Hindu theology probably the most in his interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita, which he did at the end of his life. His main focus was to teach people to meditate, 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 meditate. Kriya Yoga is his path, his technique. Meditate, meditate, meditate. Shunryu Suzuki, Buddhist, Zen Buddhist. What's his teaching? Meditate, 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 meditate. What does Reverend Michael do when he's not jumping up and down on the stage on Sundays? Meditate, meditate, meditate. He meditated like 5 hours a day. I mean, and it was, so I'm like, So I always thought meditation was going to be the base. But with Julian and just trying to get it all, they're just trying to figure things out, because part of the other, so as I kept going with all of this, I'm telling you all this, so, because what we're really getting to at the end of this, the truth shall set us free, is an understanding of where we're going as a community, what the vision is that created this community, and who are we becoming, who we already are and who we are becoming. So the challenge that I had is the more I did it, and I've been doing this for decades, is the way we teach it is, well, when you leave the material world, you go into the spiritual world, and it's basically all the same. And what I learned is, no, it's not. Just as if you look at the earth, and you just see a lot of people running around, you see people are basically the same thing. But when you get closer to earth, you say, oh, no, there's very different cultures, different ways of languages, different ways of being. Well, the same is true in the spiritual world. There's actually many different ways of seeing things. And I found doing Shunryu Suzuki's Zen meditation was a different experience than doing Yogananda's Kriya Yoga. That was different than doing mindfulness meditation through Reverend Michael. So I'm letting you know this has been my challenge of like, okay, meditate, meditate, meditate. I'm supposed to be really establishing, but when I go to Agape, it's mindfulness meditation. That's the meditation practice. When I go to self-realization, I was there yesterday, it's Yogananda's meditation technique. Love it. Love being in meditation there. I sit down and I'm right there. I'm in heaven when I'm there. Yes, you just sit and because it's a meditating community, it's just, they go up to the third eye and it's, here, I'll give you an example of a connection of meditation and life. After meditation yesterday, I wanted to just write down some things that were emerging from the meditation. And I'm thinking, I'll go to Starbucks. So I went down, drove down 688, found a Starbucks. I had no idea, packed, no place to sit. So I'm like, oh. And it was near Stone Ridge Mall, and I haven't been to Stone Ridge Mall forever, and the last time I was there, nobody was there. So I'm like, oh, they have tables there. I'll go to Stone Ridge Mall, and it's nice and quiet. It is the busiest I've ever been, other than Christmas, holiday time. It was packed, loud, people everywhere, no tables anywhere. And so I walked into Starbucks, and somebody got up from the table, and I just sat down. I'm like, I'm not moving. I'm going to write this thing down no matter what. The music is blaring, boom, boom, boom. People are talking, kids are running. It is so loud. Did not faze me a bit. I had just meditated for 2.5 hours. I'm just in a zone. This is the power of meditation. It changes our vibration, that I can sit there and write and nothing around me is impacting me. They show in, TM with the it's not Ramana Maharshi, it's Maharishi, thank you. With the research study, some people may know with the TM, like they did one in Washington, D.C., and they had different meditation groups centered around DC area, and as they started intentionally doing their meditation, the crime rate in DC went down. Now that's a correlation, not causal. They can't prove that they caused that, but there's definite correlation. Meditation changes our entire existence. But then the question is, then I started thinking, because people say, well, when are you going to teach meditation? And I'm thinking, well, which meditation do I teach? If we're going to be a meditating community, do I teach Zen? Do I teach Kriya? Do I teach mindfulness? I still haven't quite got the answer. I'm getting closer to the answer. Now that Julian's gone, this is why I'm talking about this, because I have more time to really this, because I know this is the direct, we're ready. This community is ready to move higher to higher vibrations. I know that. So, I'm not going to, I have little things, but until I know. But the meditating we have, by the way, third Friday, every month, 40-minute meditation. Yvonne and Michelle, they've been anchoring it for me since January. Thank you so much. And even just a few of us, and Peggy was there last time. It's so powerful. Come. We want to start getting this energy going. The other thing, Jack and I we're going to use John's computer. Thank you, John. And get the sound vibration of Om. And we're going to play, anytime we're not here, 24/7, we're going to have the sound vibration of Om playing through the space to start shifting the vibration. So we're really working on this whole meditation, but the prayer is the way in. I'm like, oh, that's why St. Francis came, because he was another one. He was about direct experience more than he was about theology. He didn't go around preaching theology as much as he's like, know God. Know that silence. That my favorite, the favorite quote by St. Francis, go out and preach the gospel, and if you must, use words. Because he knew of the stillness, the power of the stillness. So prayer takes us to that stillness. And that's something we're doing right now. We're creating the foundation for this new vibration. So in contemplating all of this and really feeling it, man, it's just so good. It is so good. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't know yet how we're going to really establish a meditating community when there's all these different styles and they have different impacts. I have some thoughts, but I'm not there yet. But the one thing is I really started saying, okay, but where do all these different, so Zen is very much a non-dual meditation, mindfulness is very much a causal meditation, Kriya Yoga is very much an energy meditation. So these are different things, but where do they all meet? And it came. And it's so perfect. Light. Yeah. The uncreated light, not like the sunlight, but uncreated light. That every one of these teachers, every one of us, when we're connected to spirit, we start radiating this light that we're made in the image and likeness of. Every one of us. Shunwa, Suzuki, Yogananda, every spiritual teacher, St. Porphyrios, our teachers here, all of us, light. And I thought, oh, we're the lighthouse. This is the place where we meet. We're already doing it. We've already claimed it for ourselves in who we are. We are the light. And there is a truth to that that is beyond human understanding, that called us before we even knew it. This collective light that can do any type of meditation practice, that can pray, and all of it is to reveal the light that each and every one of us is. Isn't that beautiful? So we're going to go into prayer, and what I'm going to ask, I want to say one more thing before we go into prayer. It's just because and I want to say it because it's come so much in reading, and I always know when I keep getting the same messages from different things, so I need to say it. Spirit is so individualized as all of us. That's the reason why all these teachers who do healing work with people, it's very one-on-one, because what every person needs is individual. So that's this whole idea of becoming the light is also really listening, and I love the stories that were shared here today, is by listening to that voice, we become the light, and there's no one way to do that. Just had to throw that in there. Okay, so we're going to pray, and we're going to start off with a treatment. However, I am then going to say an affirmation here. So I'll read the affirmation. So this is so in the treatment, and then from the treatment, I'm going to read the affirmation, and then I'm going to ask you to repeat the affirmation line by line with me, and we're going to do it 5 times. You know when you chant, you repeat the same thing over and over? So we're just going to do the affirmation 5 times. Okay, you with me on that? And then I'm going to ask you to do the whole, rub your hands together, and we're going to do that until the heat and the energy is going. We're going to put our hands out, and then we're going to do 3 ohms together. You online are doing it too, but you're going to make sure you're muted because out loud gets crazy on Zoom. So this, 3 ohms, and so it is, amen. Okay? And then Jack's going to go into music. All right, let's do it. So I join with this group here today, in person and online, these master teachers of light. And we join with our own individual teachers who have embodied and shown us the example of what it is to be light for them. We welcome and invite them on the other side of the veil into this spaciousness, into this light that includes all beings everywhere, all at once. Everyone is included. All sentient life form. All life forms in other dimensions. In every infinite oceanic way, this light includes everyone. And it is already here. We are all already this light. And it just is inviting us to every moment, as much as we possibly can, throughout our days and throughout our evenings, to remember that we are the light already. That we don't have to do anything, we don't have to fix anything, we don't have to make anything happen. That this light is who and what we already are. That all life is. And it is from this consciousness of oneness in, through, and as this light, we invite in our remembrance of all people who have come to this community asking for prayer for various issues that are unfolding in their life, be it physical health, emotional health, mental health, work, relationships, on every level and dimension of our being. All prayer requests are being responded to even now by this light. This light goes before us and answers prayers. Prayers that have not even been spoken yet. This light is already answering these prayers. We are living in this incredible, extraordinary, transcendent yes. This infinite love, this oceanic peace, this radiant beauty. We are the light. And we envelop all people asking for prayer, including ourselves, in, through, and as this light, and allow it to do its healing work even now. And it's from this consciousness that I speak this affirmation, and then we'll invite you to join me. I am submerged in eternal light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light. The divine light fills me within and without. So I invite you to repeat after me. I am submerged in eternal light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light. The divine light fills me within and without. I am submerged in eternal light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light. The divine light fills me within and without. Breathe. I am submerged in eternal light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light. The divine light fills me within and without. I am submerged in eternal light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light. The divine light fills me within and without. Let go even more. I am submerged in eternal light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light. The divine light fills me within and without. Rub your hands together. Really feel it. Feel that light energy flowing back and forth. Keep doing, keep going. Feel it, feel it. And then we'll put our hands out. Oh. And so it is.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all that I say.